I see that the Democrats and a lot of progressives are saying they wish you wouldn't run, saying that your presidential bid could cripple President Biden's potential run. How does that feel to be that kind of threat, to be that kind of disruptor?
Well, it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. No, man, that's what it means to be a servant of the people. You see that Harriet Tubman was a threat to the white supremacist order. Frederick Douglass was a threat. That's why he put a bounty on his head. Ida B. Wells was a threat against lynching and American terrorism, Jim and Jane Crow. That's why they put a bounty on his head. Martin King, Fannie Lou Hamer, they were threats. And what does it mean to be a threat? What it means to be a threat is you calling into question an order that's predicated on too much suffering of precious everyday people.
I see that the Democrats and a lot of progressives are saying they wish you.
A lot of Democrats and a lot of progressives is doing a lot of work there, brother. What's popping, my friends, my family? Welcome. It's been a few weeks. We're back at Nick and Nite. You know how we do. We got another banger for you. A discussion that is a long time coming. And you guys know I love my brother Pasta from the Convo Couch. We got him join us today. Amazing independent journalist. I greatly enjoy your guys' coverage, especially on Empire. I think your COVID coverage is fantastic. And that's why we come into this conversation with all love and respect. But we got some things we got to talk about. Welcome to the show, Pasta.
Thanks for having me on, Nick. It's always a pleasure to be here with RBN and yourself. I remember when we had you first on the Convo Couch. It was election night. Remember that? Before Fred Hampton left us even got started. I told people, I said, I can spot talent. Let's get this socialist MMA guy on. And here you are now today.
Yeah, you, Nico House, Fiorella, one of the first people that had the balls to platform my crazy ass. So we will always be in community because of that. And we also share a lot of very similar values. But when it comes to the issue of RFK, we had some disagreements, and we clashed a few times on the timeline. This is one of the tweets that I sent out that you saw this, and you're like, all right, put your dukes up. Put your dukes up, Nick. I don't want to straw man, because one of the worst ways to start, and I call this a debate, it's a discussion, but it's a debate at the same time because we don't have an agreement. I know most people handle debates and does it in a pro wrestling style mode, but I think we're a gentleman here. So let's talk about this disagreement. I said, this is what I said. I said, and I want to hear your opinion. I don't want to straw man anything. I said, RFK Jr. and his staff has no idea how he just derailed his entire campaign because of his trash Israel and Iran takes. But I guess a bunch of right-wingers like him now. So congrats. And also, I don't know if you saw this part because I know a lot of people don't read both tweets, but I also said RFK Jr. said multiple times that he didn't want to talk about vaccine during his run for president. It's just the media keep bringing it up. And I believe the real reason RFK Jr. ran was to help to spread propaganda for the Israeli state and smear Palestinians. It's clear that's one of his main intentions. So this is what you said in response. I want to get people to understand how this came together. And we had a few of these public disagreements. And you say insane and out of touch, to say the least. As much as it sucks, and it does sucks, Americans have foreign policy way down on their priority list. Unlike COVID protocols, which your guy still hasn't addressed, it feels like you're trying to ignore the fact that Cornell hasn't even presented himself as a serious candidate by bashing RFK to cope with reality. So once again, I don't want to straw man your argument at all. That's why I want to read your tweet. So I want you to explain it with your own word. Like, what is your general issue with my analysis of RFK?
Well, my analysis is not really, listen, you're going to attack somebody with power. You're going to attack a candidate. Go ahead and do so. My issue has been not just with yourself, with several other people, one other person on your network, and a couple other people I consider to be very close friends of mine, all fam we're talking about. Even my disagreements with Fiorella, except I don't think Fiorella has really done what you guys have done. And the first time I got a little bit ticked off is because it, sense memory reminded me of when I did support Tulsi years ago, and a lot of the Bernie progressives came after us. And I think the tweet that really upset me is when you said cultist. And I was really upset by that. I said, okay, here we go again. Let's keep it nice. Let's keep it clean. We can attack a person with power all we want, but attacking their followers, that's a little bit below the belt. And I'm going to protect myself. I'm going to protect my neighbors. People use other words like fanboy and fangirl and sycophants and, the right wingers, I guess right wingers. Another again, it's another slanted kind of comment. I think that is the big issue, because at the end of the day, I really do think that we need some unity when things come to a halt of sorts, when these barriers come up. But RFK is not going to win. The Democratic Party is not going to let him win. And I'm not naive to think he's going to win. And I'm not supporting him by the fact that I do think he's the best candidate, but I'm not going to donate a dime to him, Nick. In fact, I'm going to cover him. And let's not forget, when it comes to this whole Israeli issue, it was me who went up to New Hampshire
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
opened
And
up
we
this
gave you a
can of
lot of credit for
shitworms,
that.
right? Right.
Yeah, we gave you a lot
So,
of credit for that. But go ahead.
so I mean that, so I do think get a little bit more allowances than other. Yes, I am throwing a fundraiser where I call him a once in a lifetime candidate. I'm trying to raise monies, but I told people, whether you like him or dislike him, give me the money, get me on the ground, and let me get a microphone in front of his face, because I won't let down, because I will, no matter what, I will ask him the tough questions. But going back to what I'm talking about, when we start attacking each other, when we start attacking our neighbors, that's where things get out of hand. And Cornel West and Chris Hedges attacked RFK. RFK has not attacked him one bit. It doesn't make sense to me why you guys are attacking RFK. He's running against Joe Biden. He's within the Democratic Party. If you don't want to support him because he's within the Democratic Party, so be it. But when he loses because he's going to get cheated, you want those people to come to you. You want those people to come over to Cornel West. And what you're doing, the behavior that you guys are portraying over here, is the exact opposite. You're pushing people away. And so that is my issue, that you guys are putting a fork in between, the unity that needs to happen, because I strongly believe that. I vision this whole situation, RFK loses because he gets cheated in the Democratic Party, and then Cornel West says, come on over here, let's rock and roll, because they built a movement. Now, I wish Cornel West would get going. My interview with Cornel West, funny, he doesn't share that interview that he had with me. He shares everybody's interview on Twitter. Mine, he doesn't share. Why? Because I really challenged him. But I didn't only just challenge him, Nick. I gave him the information that's needed for him to really go into Trump areas and get those candidates and get those people that he talked about. That was his plan. So my issue is not so much with the fact that we're going after RFK for whatever reason. I strongly disagree with you that that's why he's running, just to provide cover for Israel. He sucks on Israel, no doubt about it. I don't want to elaborate on why. Me and Firo were kind of talking about it today. But let's not forget that his father and his uncle were publicly executed. And a lot of people point to the CIA, the Mossad, the gangsters, the mafia. You know what I'm saying? So there's a little bit of different circumstances when it comes to RFK. You know what I'm saying? But the other part I have problems with is, do you guys really think that any other Democrat that's running out there is a better option than RFK? You know what I'm saying? You can support Cornel West all you want, third party, but he's driving the Democratic Party crazy right now. They're sending out emails and texts, Nick, saying, we want to get him off the ballot. They're fearful of him. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I'm very
Marianne Wilson,
confused.
too.
I'm very confused by your move. And, like I said, when I do a debate or I have a discussion, there's a couple things I want to do. Number one, I want to learn something. I want to say, what does my debater or my opponent or my other, co-host or whatever it is, what is he thinking? What can I learn from him? So that's what I take from debates. And then also I try to calmly and confidently present my point of view. So that's what I'm looking to do today. I'm very confused. I'm a little bit upset too as well. I got to admit, Nick, I love you, but I was hurt when you called us cultists. You know what I'm saying? Because I thought that was wrong.
Yeah, I mean,
and like I said, at the end of the day, unity is needed.
I think one of the most important things to do is call out the cult of personality that leading people to kind of wedge on their values. So we're supporting a Zionist Democrat now. So, and when I see people who get upset at me for criticizing RFK, a politician, that's extremely weird. It's extremely weird, Pasta.
What makes us
when
when
you will admit that he's wrong on these issues. So I criticize him, and then RFK fans go after me for criticizing them. So doesn't that make them seem like cultists to you if they do that? Because imagine if you criticize AOC, and then AOC fans are like, "Oh my God, Pasta, why are you criticizing AOC?" When AOC fans do that to me, I say you guys are being cultist, because that's when people criticize Trump, and then Trump supporters are like, "Oh my God, why are you criticizing Trump?" You're being a Trump cultist. So there are RFK fans who are having a hard time dealing with my criticisms, because there are a ton. And then you guys lash out at us because we have legit criticism. We're not smearing him on Democrat talking points. We talking about the fact that he's wrong on empire. He's wrong in Israel. And what you're doing is tone policing. You say, will you guys take it easy on RFK? We destroyed Marianne Williamson for having a way less horrific take on Israel than RFK. So why would you guys believe that we're going to take it easy on RFK Jr.? And if you're someone who is so attached to a politician that you don't want to join our movement because I hurt your feelings, you're not serious in the first place. So it had nothing to do with unity. It's about speaking truth to power. And if I say something that upsets you and you want to break the unity, that's not on me at all.
Yeah. Well, I disagree with your analysis just because, people still support him despite the Israeli issue. It is one issue. It's a big issue. It's a big issue to me. I don't like it at all. But it is not the only issue, right? And we understand there's never going to be such thing as a perfect candidate out there, that they're always going to have bad parts, good parts, whatnot. You got to do a cost-benefit analysis, whatnot. And the thing I don't see is a lot of RFK fans, and there's a lot of them, a lot of supporters, whose main sole issue is the COVID protocols. And guess what? They haven't attacked Cornell supporters the same way that he's been getting attacked. His supporters.
Why should he be attacked over his COVID positions?
Because
this is something I legitimately don't understand. Because to me, there's only one issue that matters regarding COVID. Are you willing to force people to take the vaccine or not? Are you for mandates? Are you for lockdown? Dr. Cornell West said he was against lockdowns. He said on your show that he's against mandates. So why should we care about anything else other than that? I don't care if you take the vaccine. I don't care about your personal
because you don't understand it. Because you don't understand it. And this is something I think that you got wrong in the past, and you're still getting wrong to this day. When you said COVID's over, no, it's not. And that jab is for some, and I don't want to talk too much on YouTube. I don't want to get us in trouble. But some people feel like
I appreciate that.
Yeah, it's just as egregious. And when you follow the whereabouts of where it came from, it leads you right back to DARPA, which is military. It's empire. And if you look at the statistics, just the statistic alone, you know what I'm saying? And I hate to say these things like that, but a lot of people point out the fact that it way exceeds what's going on in Israel-Palestine. And I hate to say those things, but for some people, it's just as egregious. It's not just about the mandate at all. And that's the problem over there, is that you guys still have not grasped what this is, that they still have mandates. Good.
I apologize, but I would acknowledge that the government and the establishment lied to us in a way that people can't even comprehend regarding COVID, right? Mm-hmm. There was a propaganda campaign that even friends and otherwise close allies fell for, right? Mm-hmm. So why is there zero grace shown on your behalf for people who fell for COVID propaganda, but you want us to have grace for RFK when he's knowingly spreading lies about Israel? Like, you guys see, I don't understand why you want everyone to have grace on RFK, but you guys hammer people who are victims of COVID propaganda. The people who got COVID wrong are victims of propaganda. Dr. Cornell West wasn't in power. So when you grilled him on Dr. Fauci, he deserved to be grilled on that. But that's because he fell for propaganda. Dr. Cornell West is willing to learn. We talked about mandates on this show and why we shouldn't support it. The difference between Dr. Cornell West is he's willing to talk and learn. RFK is avoiding every single fucking left show. It's a miracle he did Jimmy regarding Israel, Palestine. Sabby can't get him on. We can't get him on. No one can get him on to talk about Israel. Max can't have a conversation with them. So at least Dr. Cornell West is willing to learn. RFK is willing to be a propagandist for the.
I don't agree with that at all. Dr. Cornell West did not share my interview for a reason, because he got embarrassed. He hasn't said one thing about the WEF. He hasn't said one thing about the WHO. He hasn't apologized for attacking people for saying, as he was praising the merchant of death, Dr. Fauci, and then saying that people didn't want to wear their masks because they didn't want to give up their freedoms, when it was completely wrong. When I told him on the show, and I told him how much that it was upsetting to me, it's because we didn't get to have a conversation about it. And Nick, I just want to make sure I keep saying this again, because I think we're getting a little bit off track. I have no problems with you going after RFK. I have a problem with you going after your neighbors for supporting him, because they're doing a cost-benefit analysis. And I would say that's a fair criticism.
What's that? I would legitimately, I would concede and say that's a fair criticism. I'm a hothead. Like, you guys.
No, I know that. I know that.
I'm a hothead. And maybe I could, and I admit I could use nicer words in some situations. But I'm also a fan of shock therapy, and some RFK fans honestly upset me. I'll be on Twitter, I'll be doing my own thing. I'm not going after people. And RFK fans going after me because of my criticism. That made me upset, and that's why I use coaches. I will concede to you that's maybe not the best thing to do. That's me reacting on my emotions.
Yeah.
But if you act like a cultist, well, I think a lot of them was. I'm gonna call it what it is. But sorry, I apologize for cutting you off. Go ahead, Pastor.
No. I that's my biggest issue. And I don't think the cultist, the fanboy, the sycophants, you know what I'm saying? Those type of words are helpful, comparing people to right wingers. At the end of the day, I still am desperate for, unity. And also too, as well, and we could sit here and talk about this, like who's the better candidate, and I'll still say it's RFK because there's more things that he does. I think he has the ability to reach across the aisle where Dr. Cornel West says he's going to do it, but he hasn't done one thing. You even grilled him on the point that he keeps letting Joe Biden off the hook by calling him a neoliberal, and as opposed to Donald Trump, by calling him a neo-fascist. And I told him, I said, how do you expect to walk into Trump land? You haven't been around Trumpers, Dr. West, because they ain't going to have that. You're once again trying to justify your reasons for, remember, let's vote for Joe Biden and push him to the left, right? I mean, there are reasons we can go after Cornel West too as well. And that's something that I've had to stop myself from. There's a couple people online, they would say something about RFK. And I was about to go say something about Cornel West, and I put it up and I deleted it. And I'm like, what am I doing? You can't do that because I want unity at the end of the day. And the thing about it is there are issues, and very strong issues for a lot of people on the left when it comes to Israel-Palestine. I get that. But I think at the same time, a lot of the Cornel West supporters have to understand that there's leftists like myself, there's leftists like Jimmy Dore, like Max Blumenthal, and all those people, how we feel strongly about COVID, the mandates, what it is, the whole 9 yards. It's not just about stopping the mandates. For me personally right now, you just can't be anti-mandate. You need to be anti-shot. And that's the where I'm at. And Cornel West said on my show, he took 3 shots and then stopped. Well, what happened that made you stop taking shots over there? You know what I'm saying? Did you realize something was wrong? Well, speak on it. Talk about it. He also hasn't had one public opinion, Nick. Why? It's frustrating. And I can understand how people, the criticism people were giving Jimmy, the same criticism people were giving me, is the fact that we would blow up Cornel West, but yet we would kind of be about Bobby and RFK, because RFK has expressed his opinions and we think he's wrong. With Cornel West, we're waiting for this guy to get started. Let's go. Get out there. Do some events. Talk. Reach across the aisle. I know you're for censorship.
I think he had a great start. I think he has a great start.
I'm waiting for him to get out there. He hasn't had one public event yet.
Now, his official campaign launches at the end of the month. Like he's doing a launch with the Emmett family, the Emmett Till family. And I'm still debating whether I'm going to go or not. So Dr. Cornel West is at, there's one poll that had him at 60%, even before the primary process started. He's on the Breakfast Club. Like, this is a great moment to pull people out of third-party duopoly, especially people in my community, and this is why I'm personally invested. This is my personal interest in this. This is a great opportunity to pull people out of duopoly. I don't see a lot of movement building potential in RFK Jr. campaign at all, especially since he's running as a Democrat, and he's running as a Zionist Democrat. So that's why I'm willing to criticize him on issues like Israel-Palestine, because there's no general usefulness for his campaign, because Dr. Cornel West is raising the issue on Ukraine. And there's many people raising the issue on Ukraine, and there's a lot of people on the Great Barrington Declaration who got COVID right. We don't have to listen to a guy who discredited himself completely by saying easily disprovable lies on Israel-Palestine. And when I hear these easily disprovable lies, I'm like, I can't trust you. Like, I can't trust people. And you can call out Dr. Cornel West for being weak on these issues, but I don't think he's lying. I think he was fooled. And if you want to make the argument,
I think he's being naive. I think he's hiding. I think the fact that he's running in the Green Party with Chris Hedges and all these other people, maybe he's hiding right now. I mean, he finally booked Jimmy, and it's going to be what, September something, like 4 weeks out. Dr. Cornel West has not put himself in the frying pan at all either. So, I mean, I think, and here's the thing that we have to understand. We have to do a cost-benefit analysis. There are other issues that RFK is raising to a conservative base that we also agree on. Just last week, Nick, he had a whole thing about on the border, right? This whole midnight at the border. And it was obvious to me that he was reaching out to conservatives for this move, right? He was going to say, this is what's going on the border. It's a tragedy. People are dying. People are missing. The cartels are running shit, yada, yada, yada. We need to fix this place over here. And he tried to do it in his RFK way, where he went out and talked to some kids, Spanish kids, and talked Spanish to them and stuff like that. But it's definitely a move to go after the conservative base. Well, the press then got questions. I got the second question, and I don't know if you saw the answer, but I told him, Nick, I said, why are we spending so much time talking about the border? We're not talking about the causality, the cause of migration, which is this occupation 80 bases in Latin America, murder death squads being funded by our tax dollars, turning these countries into hell, and now they come show up at our border. And also the CIA, don't they run the cartels? And he started singing, and he started talking about these things. I'm not going to let these guys use our movement for their campaign, Nick. I'm out there to use their campaign for our movement, and that's what I'm going to do. And I did it with RFK, and he's going to reach that bit. We haven't even gotten to one of his biggest points yet, which is food sovereignty. And this is something we disagree about, right? We were supposed to be talking about Medicare for all. Medicare for all is what happens on the back end. We have a sick care system that deals with symptoms only, that's controlled by Big Pharma, that's captured by the FDA, which is something else that he has fought against for quite some time. We need to talk about a healthcare system. We need to talk about getting rid of Monsanto. We need to talk about what Putin did, which is signing a law that says no GMOs in Russia. We need to sign the same laws. We are number one in chronic issues, and these are the issues. No matter what, election's not fair, whatever you feel, he's got no chance, got a chance. These issues need to be brought up, and RFK is going to bring up those issues better than anybody.
Yeah, that's why I just don't understand the end game. Like, what's the end game for this stuff though? With this coalition that he's building, he's running in Democratic Party nomination. Polls show that he's tanking his support approval among Democrats. So yeah, that was my tweet. I'm like, yeah, he got a lot of right wingers. What's the end goal? How are we changing these things that he's talking about? For example, he's talking about the sickness of our population, and I talk about this all the time. This is why, and I don't want to strawman you. Please correct me if I'm wrong here. That's why your criticisms of Medicare for all and single payer healthcare is extremely confusing to me, because one of the reasons why we're so sick is because we have no option to get preventative care. We have no money to get proper diet programs, mostly because we spend a ton of money on healthcare. So I don't understand why we would leave that up to the capitalist framework.
Let's talk apples and apples. What bill are you interested in when it comes to Medicare for all?
I actually for nationalizing the healthcare system.
As is right now, though, with the way it is.
It's one of the ways we can do that. And one of the reasons I'm supporting Medicare for all, I guess that's one entryway to do that. But the end goal should always be seizing the means of the healthcare, because I think that, and it's shown by cost, and it showed, like, I can make the financial argument and I can make the morality argument, because single payer can save money, and also you're not patriotic at all if you want to allow your neighbors to die or have medical debt because they don't have healthcare. So I think that's the right position. How we can get there is a legitimate debate, though.
Well, let me push back against that once again, because we don't have a healthcare system. We got a sick care system, and the sick care system itself is a reason why a lot of people are sick in the first place. We have unhealthy choices out there, and here's the thing: nobody wants controlled medicine, right? If there's an avenue in which you want to take with your healthcare, you don't want to be told that you have to do this to get that, do you? And that's what our system does.
That's what we have now, though. That's what we have now.
No. I mean, can you imagine if everybody was in the program and stuff right now, where they have to listen to what HHS says, Health and Human Services? We kick it all down to them, because that's what these bills do. It's a complete giveaway to Big Pharma. You know what I'm saying? And I am for
Big
healthcare
Pharma's making
for all.
money now.
I
don't understand your criticism, because Big Pharma is making money now in a privatized healthcare system.
If you nationalize it under the bills that are written right now, and if you nationalize it under the system we have now, they're going to make even more money, because we don't have a healthcare system.
So explain to me how. Let's use the Medicare for all bill, for example. Yeah. And even Bernie's bill to cap the cost of prescription drugs, compared to the free market approach, where somehow the free market going to control the price of drugs, and the price of drugs is still going high. The problem that we have in healthcare and the authoritarian nature of the COVID reaction is because we have a privatized market system where people make money off of vaccines and healthcare. If you eliminate that profit motive, you can have a healthcare that's based on the community, correct?
I don't get what you're saying.
Let me rephrase this. So
yeah,
we all know that they lied to us about the shot. Let me be careful here. One of the reasons why they lied is because Big Pharma and these health insurance companies was making $1,000 per second on the vaccine. So them pushing mandates, them pushing the authoritarian COVID policies, was in order to increase the profits of the healthcare industry. So it's a problem of private capital. So I don't know why privatized.
All right. So what would be different on the Medicare for all system that I'm missing? Because all I'm seeing is that Now you still have the same drugs being pushed by the same people who produce the drugs. Now you just have it on a nationalized system where people can get equity and they would still have to take the same drugs. I don't.
You will have less people on drugs because they are able to get preventative care because they can have free.
What preventative care do we have in this country? I don't see it.
Well, people are not able to go to the doctor to catch cancer early. My grandpa died because he never went to the doctor, and now he will catch up. You know, I haven't been to the doctor in maybe 8 years.
Why do you think he got cancer?
Because our system is garbage, and our food is garbage. Everything we eat is garbage,
and the medications that they give us are garbage. See,
absolutely.
What I'm trying to say is that I'm not against people getting the proper help they need, but in this particular system, I don't want to put fuel on the fire and fund a system that's giving bad drugs to people. We have unhealthy food. We're not looking at the chronic diseases. COVID also exposed the fact that we are number one in chronic diseases in the world. You know what I'm saying? Most people didn't die from COVID. They died from comorbidities. So what I'm saying is that I'm with you as far as making sure that everybody's taken care of, but we need to get a preventative care system before we put money in.
I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying, Pastor. So Medicare for all is not the end all goal. Because you're saying, there's it's not only healthcare. You got to talk about preventive care, which I agree with.
Yeah.
But having a privatized system is not helping. So at least
I'm not saying it is. Yeah. I'm
Okay.
not saying
Okay.
where we're at. What I'm saying right now is that we got to fix our food, we got to fix our water, we got to fix our airs. We got to do that just as much as importantly as making sure that everybody gets the preventative health care they need. Because inside those bills, Western medicine, right, is covered. Eastern medicine is, acupuncture is not covered. Shiatsu massage is not covered. None of those bills that are out there cover those other things that we would consider to be more preventative. But all I'm saying, Nick, is that it's just as important to get rid of Monsanto as it is to make sure that everybody's covered.
Yeah, and
that's my point.
I'm glad I don't want to straw man arguments. I'm glad that you clarify that. What I believe, because our community is sick, our society is sick, and that is because of privatized healthcare. And I don't want to straw man your argument, Pastor. So I'm gonna use the argument I've seen people make. So there's arguments I've seen people on the right make where they'll say we can never have Medicare for all. Do you see what happened with COVID? So what I tell people, the COVID issue is the issue of private capital. Every decision that was made under COVID was made to maximize profit for the health insurance companies. So we eliminate that will at least deal with a little bit of the crime. I'm not saying we'll deal with all of it, but at least that'll deal with the direct profit motive. But I know you don't have a lot of time, Pastor. You got early flight, so I want to give you an opportunity to ask me a question, like anything you want to challenge me.
Because I want to piggyback and support you. Can I share something real quick?
Yeah, absolutely. You can share. And also,
this is a tweet I made yesterday.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, and when you're ready, you let me know, and I'll press play.
Yeah, I'll pull it up here. And also, by the way, I was just about to say, I'm always down to join on Convo Couch if you wanted to.
Absolutely.
Extend this conversation because I know you got to go here shortly.
Well, the reason why I got to go is
go ahead.
Yeah, I just got home to Florida on Tuesday, and I got to get it back on a plane tomorrow on Thursday. And Jimmy Dore just announced. Jimmy Dore is hitting the road. He's got a lot of dates coming up, and starting this Friday, I'll be filling in for Jimmy Dore, hosting the Jimmy Dore show.
Oh, dude, that's gonna be fucking fire.
Yeah, I'm very, very thankful of it, and you know what I'm saying. I mean, and it's awesome. But listen, guys, I got to do a good job. This is just the first show, and I want many more. So you got to go over there and watch. You got to give me some support, and you know what I'm saying, and help me on out. But listen, I always argue with my conservative friends, and let me just put this up really quick because they always say they're trying to turn us communism, and that's why I put communism. For all my populist right friends who constantly state that the ruling class is trying to turn us into a communist country, look at this. The World Bank used good old capitalism to control the people through healthcare.
Nel 1987 la Banca Mondiale pubblica un documento in cui individua 4 punti fondamentali per la gestione della sanità nei paesi in via di sviluppo. Point number 1, users must pay for public services. Point number 2, facilitates the entry of insurance. Point 3, favors the private sector. 4th point, recommends decentralizing the management of public health, removing responsibility for it from the central government.
Cioè, praticamente far entrare il sistema sanitario mondiale dentro Wall Street.
So pretty much that's exactly what you're saying when you're talking about the privatization of healthcare. You know, so and I argue with my friends all the time, my libertarian friends. I tell them, I'm like, you know, you guys are so like you hate the government. You know, you want to eliminate it. But your idea is that decisions should be made in a boardroom rather than in a courtroom, and I'm not just for that. Their idea of like capitalism, or their idea of, when it comes to economy, is like having a football game and taking out the referees and thinking it's going to be okay. The market always needs to be regulated, and that's why I believe, Nick, in elections so much, because I believe the only way we can accomplish this is if we have free, fair, and transparent elections, because then we get the civil servants we deserve and the civil servants we need. And all I have to say is that, when it comes to this whole situation with RFK, I get how people can be upset with him with that issue, and it is a strong issue. It's not just a small issue because it encompasses so much. But there's a lot of other information, a lot of other issues he's good on. And if we can elevate the public discourse in a society, in a country where they're just comatose, Nick, everybody's sleeping. You know what I'm saying? They don't know shit about politics. The politics is doing them. But if we can elevate some of these conversations, and I think that a lot of people who do support RFK, who are mad at Cornel West for his stance on the COVID, need to relax a little bit, and vice versa the other way, as much as it hurts, because if they both come together, well, they'll complement each other, right, on the issues they're bad. And I think that's what's needed more than anything, because you know as well as I do, Joe Biden, Donald Trump, either one of them getting in, it's not going to be any better for Israel than if RFK gets in there. For whatever reason he's pandering. Everybody in this government is terrible when it comes to Israel. That doesn't excuse RFK for his point of views, but I just think we have to look deeper down the rabbit hole in the lens and understand what's in front of us, and find a way that we can at least be respectful with each other as we're going through this whole process. You know what I'm saying? And I'm glad that you said that maybe you got a little bit crazy and you said too much, and that's awesome that you said that. And I look at that as really, kind of standing up for what you said and being a big man about it. So thank you so much, Nick, for doing so. And, I'll try to take it easy going after everybody as well. And, hopefully I'll see y'all.
Like when people criticize me for being a hothead, I'm like, I never denied. I'm like, I'm a hothead sometimes. So, and you talk about how we can come together despite some of the disagreements, and these conversations is exactly how we do it. Like we had strong conversations, and that's why I appreciate you coming on and allowing me to challenge you on a few things.
Can I ask you that one question?
Go ahead.
Yeah. So when you and Sabby said a lot of people are supporting RFK because of white comfortability, could you explain to me what that is? Not that I'm insulted. I just think it's wrong. I just, because I don't support him. The reason why I've never trusted the big, pharmaceutical companies and the CDC itself is for what they did in Tuskegee, and how they use black men as experiments with syphilis and stuff like that. So for me, when I hear that, I just like a little bit more understanding when we hit that avenue of why we would say it's white comfortability because we support RFK.
My best answer to that is because the litmus test of white America largely confuses me for the most part. And I want to be challenged on that. Like these are our opinions. They're not absolute. But when I see there are a lot of people who have bad politics who got the COVID issue right, and then they became heroes. They became, even though they're hardcore Zionists, cop lovers, they hate the poor. I can name countless right wingers who became some sort of populist heroes just because they got the COVID issue right. Now, the reason why COVID issue was lifted above all others was because that's the first time a lot of white Americans felt any sort of pressure in their life. The first time they got an order from the government that they did not like and they was forced to follow. Yeah. So they ranked that above all other issues. So when I hear RFK talk about Israel-Palestine, I'm like, dude, that's such a giant blind spot. Because there's been long time solidarity between Palestinian people, African Americans, South Africans. I had Nkosi Mandela on our show as well, and he explained how important this was. I had the Palestinian Community Network on, and we had multiple conversations to explain how important this was. So to me, that's such a rank, unbelievable betrayal that people are like, on this. But if we got COVID wrong, you guys be ready to hang us because that's an issue that directly impacts you. How many of these right-wingers are okay with our communities being occupied by the police? And that's not a red line issue. But if someone got COVID wrong, that is. So that's why me and Sabby like, yeah, RFK championed this COVID issue, and people just take this COVID issue. It's kind of like the biggest issue for white America, and they forcing other people to take it on as their biggest issue. And you see why Dr. Cornel West is weak on this, honestly. And I will admit he's weak on this because black people got 1,000 fucking things to worry about. And one argument that you made before was that a lot of Americans don't care about foreign policy, and that's why it's not that big of a deal. Pasta, there's people in my community that don't give a fuck about COVID. There's a lot of people that just took the shot. That was not a big deal because they used to the government just oppressing them. But whether people care about the issue or not, it does not stop whether we should advocate for this issue. Many white allies do this. We don't care if your generational wealth was stolen. People don't care about reparations, so you guys gotta shut the fuck up about that because people don't care. So our community is used to people saying no one cares, shut the fuck up. But meanwhile, you guys are demanding that your issues take front and center, and that's why we like it's a white man's kind of campaign. So I want to see what your response to that is.
Yeah,
that's just my raw. And there's a lot of frustration being a black leftist because being a black leftist, it means our issues come last at all times. At all times, our issues come last, and then we see what issues are elevated, and it confuses us. So and people are like, why you take it to race? I'm like, I don't know what else to explain it. It's so weird how black issues are ranked last on people's mind. So what else can I say to explain it other than people don't? It's colorism. People take the issues of the white community more seriously than our issues. So what did I get wrong? What did I get right out of that possible?
Well, I think there's some generalizations there that were made that just aren't true. You know what I'm saying? I think most of the people, the leftists that I know that support RFK, and a lot of the Tulsi people who now support RFK, I
don't think you're part of that. To be clear,
and listen, they hate stance on Israel-Palestine. Right. But they are doing a cost benefit analysis and, taking on corruption, taking on the big pharma, taking on the agencies that have captured our government, all those agencies, FDA, EPA, where he's had a history of suing all these people for clean water, clean air, whatnot. That's why they've done that cost benefit analysis. And what I'm trying to say is that I get what you're saying in certain situations, but I still think it goes back to the old Fred Hampton. It's I was watching it the other day. I was showing somebody a video. It's two classes. We got the oppressed and the oppressor. And the oppressed is that ruling class. And this is something that I think that can be just harnessed right now. You're right about something, Nick. A lot of white people out there realize that the government don't give a shit about them for the first time ever. They felt a lot like how a lot of black people feel in America every single day. This is the chance to use for fucking unity. And we got to use that unity for class. If we lead with the class and we're in a certain situation, hey, they don't give a shit about you. They don't give a shit about us. Let's get in the streets together for that. Then everything else behind it, we can bring into the fold. But if we put it out front and saying, well, you're doing this because you're white, you're already separating people. You're using a divisive language.
Do you mind if I interject?
What's
that? Mind if I interject? On that point, do you mind if I interject? Because it is about class. It absolutely is about class.
Yeah. That's
why we are confused when poor white people fight us on issues that would actually benefit them too. And so when
but that's not all white people, right? That way. It's not all white people. We ain't. I got to tell you this now, Nick. Breaking news. We ain't got meetings, right? White people meet. We don't have that shit. You know what I'm saying?
That's fair.
We think differently, just like black people think differently. But go ahead.
That's fair, but it's a fact that when you look at polling, 80% of white people are opposed to reparations. And I'm asking you guys this question.
They don't understand.
Why should a poor white person be opposed to reparations?
Because I'll tell you why.
Are we class allies or not?
I'll tell you why.
So poor white people are like, we don't care that your guys' labor value was stolen. We don't care that you guys are screwed out in the financial system.
It's not sold like that, though. You're selling it properly. You guys, it's a labor issue. No. Well, here's the thing. You sell it properly, right? And I was against it at one point because I thought that reparations were for the punishment, of white people, what they did to black people. And I said, well, that's kind of messed up. Why do I have to be responsible for somebody who was born a long time ago? No, you sold it the right way. It's a labor issue. American descendants of slave didn't get paid for the labor they did building this fucking country. Cut the check. But if you sell it that way, that's okay. But what does the mainstream media do? They sell it the other way. White people, you got to pay Marianne Williamson way. And that's the divisive way. I'm for reparations the way you are for reparations, not for the way Marianne Williamson's is.
It's a dead ode.
Yeah. It's a dead
and you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
And if we sell that right, then we can fucking make things right. I believe.
And I think I think the reparation movement made a lot of progress on this. Like there are a lot of adults people I don't agree with on a lot of issues, but I love how they make it about a dead ode. And I actually made the argument, and if you I can make it. There's so many issues where this parallels to, where you had the Democrats who take a left issue and they fuck the messaging up. That's literally what they were designed to do. The whole thing is it's a debt owed. It has literally nothing to do with you guys. If you're poor and white, none of your money is going to be paid for this reparations anyway. And I could make the argument, and many reparations people make the argument, that it will help the economy. If you got a white business and you're in a black community and they get reparations, where's that money going?
Yeah, within the community.
Do you guys know how markets work? If you inject the black community with a ton of cash, poor working white class people will benefit. And Pasta, believe it or not, there are a lot of reparation activists that hate when I make that argument because they said that it had nothing to do with it, whether white people benefit or not. And they're true. When they criticize me for saying that, they say, well, why are you even saying that? It doesn't matter if white people benefit or not. And that's true. But that's why it's even more perplexing to me when we all know that if we get reparations, it will benefit poor white people too, white business owners as well, and they still oppose it. They still oppose it because they have anti-blackness. That's the only explanation I come up with. There's no reason. There's no financial reason. There's no class reason to be against it. They benefit from it. Go ahead, Pasta. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's not about anti-blackness. It feels that they shouldn't have to be paying for somebody else that looks like them 5 generations ago did. They weren't around for it. That's how they feel. But that's because they put the talking heads on TV and they sell it this way. It's about America's greatest sin. It's not sold about a debt owed, about labor. It's a labor issue. And here's the thing, Nick, American descendants of slaves, some people are going to look like me nowadays, that we can find that bloodline, that lineage line, whatnot, and those people, you know what I'm saying? So that's why I said it's mostly going to be people who look like you, but it's for American descendants of slaves. But at the same time, too, right, we hear all these mouthpieces on the other side where I think a lot of people say, well, people in the black community, their voices is gone, is like, I'm the oppressor and you're the oppressed. That is not the case. It's what Fred Hampton said. That ruling class, and that's what we got going on. And that's what a lot of people realize when it came to the COVID-19. There's a small percentage, 0.0001% of the people out there are the ruling class. They've had all the resources for a long time. They've had all the power at the same time. And here's the thing. This is something I think that a lot of people haven't realized is that when it came to COVID, whitey's got to go too. And people couldn't grasp the fact that it wasn't just a race thing. No, whitey's got to go too because white people are the most listening to their doctors, right? Like, sure, doctor, whatever you say. With black people are the most hesitant. So people have to grasp that thing that whitey had to go too. And if we can fucking just put this shit together, we can make things work. I hate RFK's stance on fucking Israel, Palestine. Yeah. But there are other issues out there. There are other voices. There's other discussions he's going to bring to the table. There's other discussions that Cornel West is going to bring to the table. And we got to use these discussions right here to benefit our movement, not let them use our movement to benefit them. And that's what I plan on doing.
Yeah. And the reason why we even had a conversation about reparations, to bring it back to the original point, was my question is, what is unity? What does that even mean? Is it unity when people are demanding us to make concessions while they make none? And we got to meet them where they at? Or is it unity where we're working together? Now, Pasta, when I say that, you're the perfect, you're on board with this. You're our fam, you're part of this community, you got the issues right. You get all these issues right. The criticism is not of you at all. Yeah. You guys hear from them. Your reparations take is fantastic, right? I'm talking about the people that you want us to unify with, where there are a lot of these libertarian types where they just have disdain towards the policies I'm talking about that we deeply care about. And I am very clear. I'm willing to work with people on issues I care about, but I don't want to force a unification when there's class differences here, when there's a very strong differences here. But anyway, that'll be my last point. I'll pass to you on that. Well, but that's the only thing I'm worried about, because we draw hard lines there, because we got to ask the question what unity really means. Like, where do we stop? Where do we end? Where we negotiate? And as of someone who's been part of Black Left for a long time, once again, you're not guilty of this. I'm not pointing fingers at you. Largely, I am condemning the Bernie left, the white Bernie Sanders progressive left, where they say, hey, we're not for reparations, but you guys got to follow us. You know what I mean? You guys see how that's not really unity? Is you guys telling us where to go. You guys telling us where our limits should go. But that'd be my last putback. I'll pass back to you, Pasta, if you want to chime in on that. Well, I know you're short on time. I appreciate you going a little bit longer.
No, it's all right. I gotta get packed up and get ready for the. Yeah. I gotta hit the road. I'm gonna do a lot of shit going on my plate, and I'm thankful that Jimmy's giving me the opportunity to go host this show.
Dude, I'm excited for that. Really awesome. It's gonna be good, man.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's amazing. I've been trying to get jobs, since Fiorella, got a job at RT. I've been trying to get jobs at, TNT or Press TV, and nobody's been returning my calls. And with the
That's great.
demonetization on YouTube for almost 3 years now, it could be really hard. But this opportunity, I'm going to make the best of it. And I think I'm also
Make
getting
sure
the
you guys show
opportunity.
some support, man. Make sure you guys support Pasta on Jimmy. That's gonna
Please.
be that's a great
We,
great
me and
opportunity.
Nick, we disagree on some things. We're fam, and we got to be careful of the generalizations. Like we talk about the libertarians. Yeah, I get it. Why they don't like reparations, and you can have a conversation with them why, and they suck on that issue, and I agree. But they're also for freedom of speech, and they're standing up for the Uruhu movement. They're also one of the first groups back in the days that stood up for the Black Panthers to have rights for guns. That Black people should have guns. Those were libertarians. They're non-interventionists. They don't want to get involved. Ron Paul's policies about not getting involved. So there's issues we can come together. We just got to make sure that we don't generalize and we don't allow these people from different groups to speak for everybody. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm a white guy, and I can tell you a lot of those Bernie Sanders leftist people don't speak for me. Some do, but some don't. You know what I'm saying? And I got your back, but I do still feel that we have to find ways of coming together. I'm gonna leave it with this much. Do you ever see the movie? There's a movie. It's so funny because there was a movie called Bobby, right? And it was about RFK Sr. and it was directed by Emilio Estevez, and it had one of the most amazing scenes in it. And it was with Lawrence Fishburne, right? Morpheus, and he did this whole scene when he was in he was in the break room and he was one of the head chefs and he had the day off and whatnot. And they were kind of making fun of him for being like obedient and whatnot to the, the white boss and everything like that. But he was even saying like he was willing to bend over backwards. And he was even saying, white people sometimes they got to feel like they got to be the great emancipator. So what? Who gives a fuck? Let them have it. As long as we get where we want to go to, that's what all that matters. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, and I'm not saying that we should do that, but it did change my way of thinking about, okay, well, maybe sometimes that, I'll just bend on a certain issue or I'll let it go because at the end of the day, the majority of us are still moving together in the right direction. And that's the thing that just drives me crazy because I know that RFK's stance on Israel-Palestine is awful. But there's a reason why the establishment is going crazy with him right now. There's a reason why they censored this guy right out the bat. There's a reason why they don't want him to talk when it comes to about Big Pharma. There's a reason why they don't want him to talk about the EPA, the FDA. And at the end of the day, there's more alignments with the Cornel West people there are than that difference that we hate so much. And I hate that difference too as well, Nick. But that's all I have to say. And I hope that we can find a way to move together.
Yeah.
And
This was a great conversation. It was very enjoyable. I'll let you have the last word there, Pasta. So
thank you so much.
Any last thing? Any shout out Convo Couch? Anything you want to shout out real quick before I let you?
I'm going to put it up on my Twitter. I got a new YouTube page. It's Craig Pasta Jardula. I'm going to put some extra campaign footage on that page, but I'm still doing the Convo Couch, and obviously, I'll be on Jimmy Dore starting Friday, hosting for Jimmy. And if I get your support and whatnot, and he keeps it going. It's going to be pretty awesome. I'm very excited for the opportunity, and thank you for letting me come on and talk to you, Nick. I love you. I love everybody. RBN. I love Sabby, Rome, Compton, JB Font. Love you guys all. Love you so much. So let's find a way we can be nicer to each other and make this shit happen. At the end of the day, as long as we bring up the issues, and you know what I'm saying, that we have to have some. Our RFK sucks on reparations, by the way, too, as well, right? You know what I'm saying? So he's better on affirmative action, and he sucks on reparations. So it's like okay. So we got to educate and keep talking. That's it.
Yeah, well said, my friend. Thank you for coming on. Good luck with Jimmy, and have a safe flight. Have a good one, my
Definitely.
friend.
See you soon.
So let's get into super chats real quick. That was a great conversation. That's how I like to have it. And props to Pasta for being one of the very few people to have the balls who have a disagreement with me because I do this all the time. There was Keith Overman. Keith Overman responded to me. All these people always yapping their jaws. All these people always talking tough. Then I'm like, dude, you want to have a conversation about this shit or not? They never do. The Vanguard bragging about debating broken brain shit lives like Vosh and Kyle Kalinske. Meanwhile, they're scared to have a conversation with little old me. They scared. Do you guys see me and Pasta had a conversation? Was I unhinged? The only person that made me unhinged was Vosh. Only person. But I don't know why people think they're gonna come on RB and they're gonna get their head cut off. Let's talk about these damn issues. A lot of people don't want to talk about these damn issues because they know they're wrong. So big props to Pasta. We're gonna cover you have friends that the Nigerian government, the junta, the military junta, is accusing of launching attacks. So it's already starting, and we're gonna cover some more cope regarding the Ukraine counteroffensive failing. I told you guys, I'm gonna greatly enjoy this. I'm gonna greatly enjoy these news people who completely destroyed their credibility over the last few months, telling people that Ukraine was winning, that the counteroffensive is doing well. Now the counteroffensive is such a disaster now that Anderson Cooper is forced to bring on military generals to explain why they was wrong about this. So we're gonna cover that here too, here soon. That'd be the last two things we quickly cover before we sign off today. Thank you for the 199, Zach. West supported medical apartheid for Palestinians. Not sure the information behind that, but thank you for the 199, Zach. RFK Jr. needs to get with West and bring him up to speed. So when you say he supported medical apartheid, like I heard him say with Pasta that he don't support mandates, he don't support lockdowns. So I'm still extremely confused about the criticisms of Dr. West on COVID. I'm legitimately him. He got Dr. Fauci grossly wrong because he praised Dr. Fauci, right? But that's because he fell for the propaganda. That's not an actual policy position he's going to take. The policy position he's for is against COVID mandates and against lockdowns. So I don't know. I'm legitimately confused. I'm interested in hearing you guys' criticism. I just don't get it. Thank you for the $5, Eric. Oh, Jesus Christ. Y'all did see it. I'm going to show you guys this clip since Eric brought up. So Jimmy Dore, and I'm going to save this segment for when we do Nick and CJ probably tomorrow. I wasn't planning on going live tomorrow, but I know CJ is going to cover this. Jimmy Dore absolutely fucking dismantled Marianne Williamson. Jimmy just fucking ruined her. So Marianne Williamson, who is used to doing softball interviews, she used to doing softball interviews with her friends, Cal and Crystal. She go on the Vanguard. She was just with Hassan Piker, palling around, playing video games. You know what I mean? She's doing all these deeply unserious media appearances. You got the Vanguard stroking her ego, right? All these people who are access journalists who refuse to ask Marianne Williamson a hard question. You had clowns like the Vanguard. You had clown networks like Breaking Points that they're interviewing a presidential candidate, but they don't ask her about Ukraine. They don't grill her about Ukraine. That's absolutely absurd for you to do that. So let's play this clip. This shit is glorious. This is the only clip we're going to play right now just to get you guys caught up. We're going to do a full segment breakdown on the Nick and CJ show tomorrow on this. So make sure you guys don't miss that. I cannot wait to break this down with CJ. Because you guys see, CJ already with the clips. See, I'm mad I missed the entire interview. I seen a few clips on Twitter. The few clips I seen on Twitter, this shit is already horrible for Marianne Williamson. This shit is absolute worst case scenario. And I was talking to Steph before, and then we was like, we had no idea why she would agree to do this. Steph Simrano, why would Marianne Williamson agree to go on Jimmy Dore's show? It's beyond me. Now let's listen to this. I'm not gonna add too much commentary on it yet because I want to save it for the longer segment tomorrow. I cannot wait to watch this in full. Only seen this in another clip. Let's check this out.
All the propaganda that goes along with it, because this was provoked by NATO. There's no point to even have NATO. I mean, this is really disappointing.
Well,
this is just like your Julian Assange before. You're just as bad on this as you were on Julian Assange before. This is bad.
On Julian Assange before, I said I didn't know. I said I didn't know. And for years, I've been supporting Julian Assange. For years, I have been saying that I have gone to marches and I've visited with this Stella and I've walked around the Parliament building in London. I've definitely been in support of Julian Assange and for years.
Okay, well, good. Well, good. People know that. So now people know you're a staunch supporter of the Ukraine war effort. So,
you know, it's funny.
All the propaganda that goes.
And there's one more I want to show you guys. And we're gonna break this down tomorrow. This was fantastic. I'm literally gonna let this play, so you gotta check it out. And people like Marianne Williamson and the Breaking Points, the people who interviewed her, the people that gave Marianne Williamson a softball interview should be embarrassed. Marianne Williamson came on RBN for the first time earlier this year, and that was the first time she ever had a hard interview, and she melted down. And then she goes on Jimmy Dore and she has the rare hard interview from her left, and she melts down again. Watch this meltdown here. Once again, I'm gonna save my longer breakdown with CJ tomorrow because I'm sure we're gonna talk about this. This shit's gonna be glorious. Look at this 2-minute clip. Like, these are the only 2 clips I've seen, and they're absolutely glorious. Absolutely glorious.
They're also out there being pro-war. So that's the biggest issue right now. As we said, how much money do you think we should send to Ukraine?
I'm surprised that Marianne Williamson didn't call Jimmy Dore a mansplainer the same way she called me a mansplainer. Like, it's the same way how she had a conversation with the guy on CNN and Fox News who was grilling her, who was interrupting her, but she had no issue with that. But she called me a mansplainer. She considered me disrespectful. And you see Jimmy is going to call her out for her bullshit. She's going to play the victim again, and Jimmy's not going to have that shit. Look at this shit. I love how Jimmy calls her out for doing the same thing she tried to do in the interview with me. Well, she's like, oh my God, you asking hard questions. Why are you being so rude? Answer the fucking question, you fraud.
They're also out there being pro-war. So that's the biggest issue right now. As we said, how much money do you think we should send to Ukraine? We sent over $100 billion while there are people living under every bridge in America, and 80% of workers live paycheck to paycheck. How much money do you think we should have sent to Ukraine?
We have $858 billion that goes into our yearly defense budget. So the overspending by the military is a huge issue, of which Ukraine is a small part. And the fact that we are not funding the people of the United States and the actualization of their dreams is, to me, basically the reason I'm running. But I don't see that as dependent on whether or not we're spending money on Ukraine.
So $100 billion, which they say could end homelessness 4 times over in the United States. That's not a lot of money.
That's not the issue. The issue is that you could say that about any of the money that we spend on the $2 trillion tax cut that should be repealed, where 83 cents of every dollar went to the highest earners and the richest corporations. The billions of dollars we give in subsidies to corporations that are already making billions of dollars. Plus the fact.
So why do you think it is that we can, at the drop of a hat, send $100 billion to Ukraine, the most corrupt country in Europe, but we can't fund our own homelessness in America? Why do you think that is?
Because funding homelessness in America does not serve anybody's corporate bottom line.
And so this war is for corporate bottom line.
Definitely. Definitely on this one, it is true that this happens to be making money for Northrop Grumman, Boeing, and
so it's not really about helping the people, because if it was about helping the people, we'd start here first, right?
No, actually, listen.
No,
Jimmy,
we start over in Ukraine.
Just to sit here and
she just got fucking dismantled, son. You guys see the expert technique that Jimmy does, where he just completely nonchalantly destroys her. Completely nonchalantly destroys her like it's nothing. And she's in shambles here because she's not used to being asked tough questions. She used to going on Crystal and Cal. We having fun, baby. We're going to win this election. We're not going to talk about foreign policy. We're going to talk about all these policies that Democrats not going to allow to happen anyway. Then she goes on RBN and Jimmy Dore and gets absolutely fucking rolled. She called me a mansplainer. She was forced to rage quit our conversation. And now she went on Jimmy Dore show in front of 15,000 people and got absolutely dismantled by a comedian. This is the person that Zach, that Kyle, that Crystal, and many of these dumbass Marianne Williamson supporters believe is the next Bernie Sanders. Jimmy just casually rolled her ass up and smoked her. Anyway, I'll play that last part again, because I want you guys to see that checkmate, and then I'll end this segment. Because trust me, make sure you guys tune in tomorrow. Me and CJ is definitely going to cover this. Like, cause CJ clipping this shit, posting it everywhere. I only seen the 2 clips I've shown you guys. Unfortunately, I missed the live stream. So I'm gonna watch. Let's see the checkmate again, and we move on to the Niger story.
So why do you think it is that we can, at the drop of a hat, send $100 billion to Ukraine, the most corrupt country in Europe, but we can't fund our own homelessness in America? Why do you think that is?
Because funding homelessness in America does not serve anybody's corporate bottom line.
And so this war is for corporate bottom line.
Definitely on this one, it is true that this happens to be making money for Northrop Grumman, Boeing, and
so it's not really about helping the people, because if it was about helping the people, we'd start here first, right?
No, actually, listen.
No,
Jimmy,
we start over in Ukraine.
Well, you just sit here and you're gonna.
I'm sorry, I gave you a tough question. Now try to answer it.
Not about that. I do not believe that if only we were not supporting Ukraine, all that money would then go to help the homeless in America.
I don't think I found the clip. There's a clip where Marianne Williamson is tone policing Jimmy Dore because Jimmy Dore is beating her ass so bad. She's like, "Come on, man, you was usually better to me before." And then Jimmy was like, "Shut the fuck up." He's just like, "Stop pretending I'm being rude because I'm asking hard questions. That's honestly what I should have said. Like, I was very nice to Marianne Williamson, and she still rage quit because I destroyed her on Israel-Palestine. And then she said I'm a mansplainer because I corrected her issue on Israel-Palestine. And then she left the interview because she couldn't handle that. So and you're going to see tomorrow when we play more clips, she's like, "Come on, Jimmy, why are you being like that?" And Jimmy's like, "Shut the fuck up. I'm not being like that for you." Let me see if I can find that clip. Damn, Matt, I don't have it. Because once again, this is breaking. This just happened literally like an hour.
Also out there.
I can't wait to cover. I legitimately can't wait to cover this tomorrow with CJ. I want to see. I wonder if I can find that. Oh well. He literally ended her. I can't wait to see how. I can't wait to see how the people with Jimmy Dore derangement syndrome who like Marianne Williamson. I can't wait to see how they react to this. You already know that Kyle Kalinske is gonna have a video tomorrow that say Marianne Williamson destroyed Jimmy Dore. Or maybe now I think the smart thing is not to cover it. I think that's a smart thing. They're probably gonna do that because I think that's too absurd. I think it's too absurd to do that. All right, let's go to the Niger story. So this is an ongoing coverage of Niger. You had the Western coalition after the military junta that overthrew the Western-backed corrupt government of Niger. They pretty much gave them a deadline that expired about 2 days ago to give the government back to their to the former president. Now shit is getting real. We just have Victoria Nuland that was spotted in Niger. And I told you guys, when Victoria Nuland shows up in your country, shit is about to get real. Now you have the Niger coup leaders that accuse the French forces. So the Nigerian government accuses the French forces. You guys see how they throw coup leaders there, which is they are the new government now. They're just small propaganda stuff they do. Niger government accused French forces of destabilizing the country. Coup leaders say French forces free captured terrorists and breached they breached their airspace ban and they freed captured terrorists. And you have France that denied all the allegations. So you have the Nigerian government as warning people that the attack is already starting. The attack is already starting. Now, considering the history of France, considering the position that the Nigerian government is in right now, I have no reason to believe France and no reason to disbelieve the coup leaders here. France has a lot to lose in this war, and there's no doubt that France is not going to allow this coup to happen without some sort of military escalation. You already had Joe Biden that's occupying Niger illegally, just like the same way he occupied Syria. This is a great breakdown from George Galloway on the situation in Niger and France. And this is what he said: Niger is required to keep 50% of its foreign currency in a French bank. They have none of their own in gold or uranium, while their products have made France wealthy. So let's watch this clip.
Africa, Francophone Africa, their currency is the French franc. They are required to keep 50% of their foreign currency reserves in the bank in France. They have themselves no gold, no uranium, very little electricity, very little economic development in Niger. But their product has made possible the wealth of the people of France, the country, the state of France, and many other places. So that's what imperialism is: going to other people's countries, stealing their things, putting lipstick on it if you can, and calling the other fellows exactly what you are yourself. The Alexander the Great story I told on Wednesday. How dare you terrorize these waters as a thief? And the thief answers, how dare you terrorize the whole world and call yourself an emperor?
Very powerful stuff. And here's another video from, this is not a long segment. I just want to share the latest happenings. And once again, at this point, it's a he said, she said thing between France and Niger, where Niger is claiming that France is destabilizing their country. Now, considering the history of France, considering the situation as we know it, I definitely am more inclined to believe in Niger. We will see. Either way, they're just beginning. This is my brother, Nico House. Nico House is too powerful. Nico and House Power. You guys see my short videos I've been making. Nico is the OG at these short videos. He's the one who taught me how to do the videos I'm making now. Much love to Nico House. So let's play the video.
This is not a drill. The Niger junta has said that the French armed forces have attacked Niger's National Guard and violated their no-fly zone ordinance. Now, France has denied all of these accusations. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I don't really fucking believe them, but they denied it. Now, a few days ago, I did a video specifically detailing why France has the most to lose if Niger's coup was to stay in place. And I said that they would be the ones to attack. And if what the junta is claiming is true, then France literally just said, fuck ECOWAS, fuck international borders, fuck international law. We're going to invade because our country literally cannot survive without stealing uranium from Niger. Now, some were claiming that this was merely just another coup in Africa and it will be quelled just like all the other coups. And most people won't really care about it. And I had been saying for some time that this could spark World War III because there are too many resources, too much oil, too much gas, too much uranium, too much gold, and too much dignity at stake for neocolonialists. They can't and they could not let this slide. And with the pipeline that is supposed to be built through Niger at stake as well, corporations couldn't afford to let this slide. This is going to get worse before it gets better.
Our brother Nico House is too powerful. That's a great analysis. As you guys see, this is a very delicate situation. France is denying all wrongdoing, but I promise you, as Nico said, there's so many resources, there's so many important stuff going on. France is going to act. The Biden administration already hinted that they're going to act. So we got to keep the eyes on these people. And as people who live in the empire, we got to call them out like our brother Nico House is doing. Now, I'm going to show you guys the Western rules-based order that we are currently fighting for in Ukraine. Now, there's the Ukrainian counteroffensive that's failing to spectacular degree. And we're going to cover another COPE segment from CNN about this. But they say we got to spend billions and billions and billions of dollars to fight Ukraine in order to uphold this international rules-based order that we established. This rules-based order where France is attacking Niger, where the United States is illegally occupying Niger, where Israel is bombing the capital of Syria every week. They're occupying Syria. There's a genocide of Palestinian people. There's a genocide in Yemen that was supported by the West. This is the rules-based order. You guys understand? Operation Condor, where we send military to kill and torture socialists and communists in Latin America. That is the rules-based order. That's why it does not serve anyone's interest, especially if you're black, brown, disenfranchised, on the left, to support the West, NATO, and this rules-based order that destroys our quality of life. that destroys the victims of imperialism. So I'm gonna show you guys just some examples of this rules-based order to wrap up this Niger segment. You had Biden that stole billions of funds from Afghanistan. So I'll read his list here, and I'll show you the receipt. Actually, I can do both here. So he said the UK has seized Venezuelan gold reserves. France holds 50% of Niger currency. The United States has seized $7 billion of Afghanistan reserves. The United States has freezed $30 billion of Libyan reserves. The United States seized Iraqi gold reserves. So they just seized and pillaged these countries, and they say they are doing it in order to protect democracy. Does this sound like the rules-based order to you guys? Does this sound like something that is worth fighting and provoking a nuclear war for? People accuse me of just having politics that is just simply is the United States is bad. And it essentially is, because the United States is the biggest obstacle to world peace. The United States and their allies are the one who is making poor countries poorer. They are the ones who rob the wealth of Africa, the United States and their Western allies. There's not one goddamn Russian flag in Africa. There is no Russian African imperialism. That's why Africa is embracing Russia. And then West is like, oh my God, why is African countries falling for Russian propaganda? But that's what they say. Well, maybe because Putin and Russia doesn't have a history of colonial genocide. Like Belgium, like France, like the UK and US many did. So this is what they write. Here, let me take this off. How the Russian propaganda machine works in Africa. Those goddamn dumb Africans falling for Putin propaganda. Here from the BBC, Russia in Africa, how disinformation operations target the continent. Those dumb Africans, those dumb blacks being tricked by the Russians the same way those dumb blacks were tricked by the Chinese. You guys see how there's always an element of racism there? What's confusing about the fact that Russia don't have a dog in the race in Ukraine at all? In fact, they have reasons to resist the rules-based order. So you have Anthony Blinken go on CNN. Many people go on CNN. We're about to show you an example of that here soon. A lot of people go on CNN and say, this is why we got to fight Russia and Ukraine. We got to fight to establish the rules-based Western order. They want to destroy that. The African countries do not want Western rules-based order because we've seen the result of that. So if you are telling the entire world that we got to fight Russia to break this system that is destroying Africa, of course Africa is going to side with Russia. They know what's in their best interest. So let's get just a few more super chats. I'm going to show you this crazy CNN video where they are coping over the failed counteroffensive. Thank you for the $10. Great discussion tonight. I feel Pasta's defense of RFK falls flat to me because RFK isn't misinformed about Israel. He's a straight up propagandist liar. That's exactly what I'm saying. That means more. He can obviously be bought. And that's why you guys got to understand the difference between Marianne Williamson and Pasta on this issue is that Marianne Williamson pretends to be on the right side of this issue. She pretends to be a progressive on Israel-Palestine, but she still supports the existence of the Israeli state and their offensive operations. She supports still arming them. She supports the Iron Dome, which is an offensive mechanism. So even though she sounds good on Palestine, she has very big flaws. RFK doesn't even do the head fake. You have RFK that goes on multiple platforms to smear the Palestinian people as savages and terrorists. These people are illegally occupied. They are victims of settler colonialism. They are victims of a violent, oppressive state that dehumanized them. But RFK wants you to believe that these people are subhuman scum because they have the audacity to resist the Israeli apartheid regime. What RFK does is disgusting to the highest degree. That's why I said in the beginning of our debate, and Pasta didn't agree, he's running this campaign to smear Palestinians. Like, no, for real, guys, How many interviews did RFK how many interviews has he done where he said, guys, I'm not even trying to run on this vaccine shit. He's like, I'm not even trying to talk about public health. You guys won't shut up about it. He is trying to run. He is literally running as a puppet of the Israeli Zionist regime. And then my friend Pasta and other RFK fans say, come on, man, there's just one issue. There's just one issue. Well, to be clear, Pasta did not say it's a small deal. Let's not strawman Pasta. Pasta did say it's not just a small deal. But many RFK fans pretend it is. But the problem is RFK Jr. is running to be commander-in-chief. He's running to be commander-in-chief. So his decisions and his position on Israel-Palestine is of the utmost importance because he's going to be one that signs the checks. He's the one who's directly meeting with the Israeli leaders. He's the head of the executive branch. So that is the issue. It would be one thing if he was running as a member of Congress and he was bad on Israel, because you can say, well, at least he's 1 out of 400 bad votes, right? But you cannot get the Israel-Palestine issue wrong when you're running to be commander-in-chief. You cannot get the issue of Iran wrong like he did because he's a puppet of Israel. He want to double down on Trump's and Biden hardline Iran policies. You guys know that? He's the commander-in-chief. That's extremely important. Let's get to the next few. Appreciate the super chat, Zach. Thank you for the 499. Correct. I mentioned the cost of West falling victim to propaganda. It's so complex, and C-19 was a spark to a coming blaze. RFK Jr. plus West got to work together. Pasta said that too. And I think that would be a beautiful thing. But how do you reconcile the difference between Dr. Cornel West, Dr. Cornel West was essentially kicked out and fired and denied tenureship from Harvard. He wasn't fired. He was denied tenure and he quit because of his position on Palestine. Like, Dr. Cornel West sacrificed a lot because of his position on Palestine. So how does that unity happen when RFK is so aggressively wrong? So when you guys say this, I'm like, yeah, that's a beautiful idea on paper. But how does it work? How does it work considering RFK is not for Dr. Cornel West, one of his senator's policies, Medicare for all? Right? There's too many issues. And I want RFK and his fans to address these things. But it seems like he's fighting it. He's fighting because he don't want to have a conversation with Max Blumenthal. He's fighting because he don't want to have a debate with Dr. Cornel West, which me and Aaron Good have been trying our best to set up. And I know he got the invite. Let's continue. Thank you for the $10, Derek. The problem I have with RFK Jr. is that he states that he's against censorship, but the issues on Israel is one of the most censored things to cover. That's one of the reasons I can't support him. What is his position on BDS? Will he support the government crack down on people who support BDS because it's anti-Semitic? He says when you get to boycotting Israel, that's when you veer into anti-Semitic territory. This is what he said in an interview that we broke down before. He said, yeah, it's one thing to criticize Israel, but when it's not in proportion, when you talk about boycotting, that's when you get into anti-Semitic territory. So are you going to force the government to crack down on people who you deem to be anti-Semitic? Bruh, RFK Jr. sat in a room full of black people and said he wasn't for reparations. Black America is always required to ditch our issues for unity. Now, do you guys see my problem with this issue of unity? Bernie Sanders people were demanding that we have unity. The same way that RFK people are demanding that we have unity. Fuck unity. Give me solidarity. I repeat, fuck unity. Give me solidarity. So if you are for solidarity, you supported my issues. You supported our struggle because you understand they're connected. But if you're against reparations, you're demanding unity because you're demanding unity. You're demanding me to drop my position for the sake of unity. There should be no unity for the sake of unity. If there's no solidarity, if there's no convergence on issues, there's no unity. Solidarity over unity any day of the week. Because that is what the progressives demand. The Democrats demanded you unify behind Joe Biden. No, we demand you solidarity in our struggles. And there are many people who don't understand this concept. And to be clear, Pasta is not one of those people. Because Pasta is standing with us on reparations, right? He learned from his mistakes when he admitted he was wrong. But RFK Jr. is not. There's pretty much every libertarian is not. You know what I mean? I don't know if I read this, but thank you for the 199. Zach, Nick, you're describing people are self-interested. Absolutely. There's another one from there's a $5 from Talkish. RFK Jr. represents the establishment, not we the people. Yeah, and I said very early on, I'm like, I'm not interested in RFK. He's a fucking Kennedy. I'm not interested in a Kennedy. And then people say, "Oh man, Nick, that's not fair. You're gonna discredit him because he's a Kennedy." Yes, because his horrible position on Israel-Palestine is because he's a Kennedy. He feels like he has to defend Israel because that was his Kennedy family project. His interest will always be with the Kennedy class project. He refused to budge on Israel because of his name, and because of that, that's why I said I'm not going to support him because of that. Because his family dynasty is going to negatively influence him on many issues. Like his rabid anti-communism, which JFK was guilty of, right? We got a few more here. Thanks for $5, Eric. We will never solve any of our issues until we first defeat and dismantle the U.S. empire. Until we all understand that and unite to end empire, we will fail. Absolutely. I've seen this one coming on. I've seen two more that came in real quick, so I'll read those. RFK Jr. is not only getting Israel-Palestine wrong. What RFK Jr. said about Palestinians is 110% racist and could not have been said to other nationalities. Yeah, his statements literally made me view him completely different as a person. Like, you guys understand? Like, everything he says about anything, I question now. After seeing his double down Zionist approach recently. It's really disgusting, the smear campaign he's running on Palestine. Thanks for the 499, Joe. Hey, Nick, have you ever considered going on Modern Day Debate Channel? I know you're looking for more debates. I have no idea what that is. They never reached out to me. So none of these debate channels reached out to me. I had a debate with Destiny. We debated over whether America is a fascist country or not. You guys can check it out on our channel. And he was like, man, yeah, your point of view is very interesting. I'll make sure I hit you up for future debates. Look at the video. He literally says that. Destiny was like, fuck that. He literally says, I'll hit you up for future debates. Never hits me up. The Hill, after I debated Robbie and destroyed Robbie, they're like, oh, we make sure we invite you back so we can have more engaging discourse. And the Hill never invited us back. Well, he never invited me back after I destroyed Robbie on Venezuela and on communism and on capitalism, right? So I'm here. I be asking for debates. People don't take them. That's why Pasta is a real one for taking a conversation that I definitely framed as a debate. So Pasta is a real one. So anyway, let's get to this last video real quick before we sign off. We covered this on Nick and CJ. The Western media. Oh shit, wrong one. The Western media reacting to something they cannot deny anymore. The Ukrainian counteroffensive has completely failed. Despite months of propaganda hyping up the Western offensive, the Ukrainian offensive, despite weeks of propaganda saying that Russia is this weak country that's on the verge of defeat in Ukraine, now they are forced to admit the reality here. And we did a breakdown of the MSNBC segment of this. No, there was another CNN segment on this. This is Anderson Cooper reacting to this. So this is what they're reacting to. So this is the article that came out yesterday at CNN. And there was another one that came out. Was it Business Insider? I forgot who else reported on this. But CNN been reporting on this because they have to, because Ukrainians are getting slaughtered. 40,000 dead in a few weeks. And that's a low estimate. And it's counteroffensive. And they only got 100 square kilometers. It's a absolute disaster. Literally exactly what we was warning people about way before the counteroffensive happened. For real. This is why RBN grows, because our credibility, because we told you this weeks ago. We told you guys weeks ago that his counteroffensive was doomed for failure. So now these people got to come on TV and they got to explain to their audience why they lied and bullshitted to them for so long. So this is going to be greatly enjoyable.
Long before Russian forces invaded, it was understood they outnumbered and outgunned Ukrainian forces. So when Ukrainian troops managed early on to roll back a good deal of that invasion force, hopes were initially high they could quickly finish the job. It's not worked out that way. And now, new reporting tonight that there's growing concern among Western allies about Ukraine's counteroffensive and its fate. In a moment, we'll talk to a retired three-star general for his take. But first, the exclusive reporting from CNN's Jim Sciutto, who joins us now. So what are you hearing from your sources about what they believe Ukraine's prospects are right now?
A markedly negative turn, Anderson, and these are sources I've been speaking to since the start of the counteroffensive, but even going back to the start of the war. And expectations of this counteroffensive were quite high, going back just a few weeks ago. But in recent weeks, as Ukrainian forces have encountered really intense Russian defenses in the east and the south, 3 lines of defensive lines, defensive belts as they're known, with trenches as you're seeing there, tens of thousands of mines. Ukrainian forces have not proven able to break through those lines. They've encountered staggering losses, I'm told, both in terms of killed in action and wounded in action. And Ukrainian commanders, in response to that, understandably have pulled back some of those units to
That's a very rare admission that on CNN. As someone who watched a countless amount of these propaganda segments on CNN, they will always talk about the amount of Russian soldiers that are dying, despite the fact that the Ukrainian soldiers are dying at around 5 times more clip than Russian soldiers. Way more Ukrainian soldiers. I mean, to the multiple degree, are dying compared to Russian soldiers. But they come on their corporate channels every day like, oh my God, Russia is losing. This counteroffensive is going to be amazing. We're going to destroy Russia and they're going to be embarrassed. And now they are forced to report on this reality that we've seen it come in from a long time ago. And you have the West and you have Chris Christie and many others. They're like, yeah, let's have more Ukrainians die. Let's keep this going. Let's keep this going until Russia is defeated. Do you guys understand how psychopathic they are? Anyway, let's continue.
I'm told, both in terms of killed in action and wounded in action. And Ukrainian commanders, in response to that, understandably have pulled back some of those units to save some of those casualties. And while even a few weeks ago, the hope was that over time they'd be able to break through, more recently, the assessments both on this side of the Atlantic, but also in Europe, have been that they don't quite see the opportunity. So that hope has faded, not entirely faded, but it has certainly become a much less hopeful outlook for their prospects for success in gaining.
You guys see the subheadline here? It said officials fear Ukraine's slow counteroffensive may spark blame game between Ukrainian officials, and we already starting to see the cracks form. There are already cartoons in Ukraine that's criticizing the West for not doing enough for them. There are Ukrainian soldiers that are being blamed by the West for being incompetent because they're apparently supposed to learn how to use these weaponry with only weeks of training. They was doomed to fail. We knew that. The corporate media knew that. And what's even more disgusting is that the NATO left, Bernie Sanders and Marianne Williamson knows this. But they are willing to allow Ukrainians to die because they're intense Russophobia. They don't care if 5 Ukrainians die as long as 1 Russian dies for every 5 Ukrainians. You guys understand? That's how unhinged their ideology is. Let's continue.
Back significant territory.
This also takes into account, I mean, there were a large number of Ukrainian forces trained for a length of time by U.S. forces in sort of combined weapons tactics and movement. That still has not been able to deal with the trench system, the mining, the defensive system that Russia had time to set up.
No, and what I'm hearing is that the expectations may simply have been too high. When you look at the training for some of
you don't fucking think. You don't fucking say, sir. This is 3 for 3. 3 of these fucking segments some motherfucker comes on and say, oh, I think the expectations for the Ukrainian counteroffensive was too high. You don't say, sir. That is exactly what we were saying from day one. From day one, we told you guys that these Western officials and these media operatives that are pushing for a counteroffensive are just trying to get Ukrainians killed. They stand no fucking chance at defeating Russia and having a successful counteroffensive. And when we told people that they would never have a successful counteroffensive, we was called Putin propagandists. We was called Putin propagandists when we told you guys that Ukraine has no fucking chance. Tommy Tuberville, let me pull this up right now before I forget. Tommy Tuberville was criticized by the liberal corporate media. He was criticized. Here's the Hill. Because this is what Tommy Tuberville says. Tommy Tuberville, the unhinged senator from Alabama, some fucking red state, who gives a shit. He says Ukraine can't win the war. It's a junior high school team playing a college team. Now, I may cover this with CJ tomorrow, but Morning Joe did not like this. Morning Joe did an entire segment where there was like, this is just another example of Republicans being captured by Putin. Why they hate America so much? Because Tuberville and these right-wingers, these people who don't get any issues correct, this issue is so easy to get wrong, these morons can tell that Ukraine can't win. And then Democrats and liberals melt down and pretend they're unreasonable. Meanwhile, you got this general who just admitted that the expectations were too high.
Russia had time to set up.
No, and what I'm hearing is that the expectations may simply have been too high. When you look at the training for some of these newly supplied Western weapons, for instance, German Leopard tanks, you're seeing maybe 8 weeks of training. That is not a lot of time. And the thinking is, from speaking to military officials, also diplomats, is that the idea of turning Ukrainian armed forces into a capable, credible, mechanized fighting unit in that short length of time may have been a bridge too far. That even with advanced Western weapons and training from the best in the business, right, that the time frame was short, and that even for the best.
You don't fucking say. So now they admit this. So now they're saying that, man, maybe it was kind of naive to think that just because we can send them weapons, that they can somehow defeat one of the strongest superpowers that we ever seen. You don't fucking say. It never was realistic, you unbelievable motherfuckers. These people push this counteroffensive that never made sense. And guess what? The NATO left goes along with it. Can't emphasize that enough. Let's continue.
U.S. combat brigades, months, years of training still make it difficult to break through these kinds of lines. So with weeks of training, it just may have been too high a hope.
Oh my God, I want to replay that part because he said something that should have been obvious to everyone. I want to replay it, so let's listen to it. Because he essentially says, even if you took our troops who are well trained and know exactly how to use all this military equipment, even they will struggle against Russia. Okay, that's exactly what we all knew. So if well-trained, experienced soldiers will struggle against a Russia defensive, why would anyone believe the poorly trained, corrupt Ukraine military be able to do the same? So I don't understand how Anderson Cooper and these Ukraine propagandists are not embarrassed to admit this. You're not embarrassed to publicly admit this? Because you guys been so wrong about this issue for months. You had the NATO left that have been gaslighting us, telling us that the Ukraine with this counteroffensive, even though they have untrained, constricted soldiers in. Listen to this part again.
U.S. combat brigades, months, years of training still make it difficult to break through these kinds of lines. So with weeks of training, it just may have been too high a hope.
You guys didn't figure this out before. I'm the dumb college dropout that is not worth talking to. But you're the smart college dropout. You probably got a master's degree, don't you? You probably got a master's degree. You was really good at hitting the books. You had a lot of work ethic growing up. You got good grades, and you are now in high society, also because of that generational wealth. But you are a respected general, but you are so dumb, you didn't see this coming. But me, a college dropout, living in the middle of fucking nowhere in the Midwest, can see some shit that you guys did not see. I got into this game because I realized that we were ruled and governed by fucking morons, and every single one of us can run laps around these motherfuckers intellectually. I want you guys to realize the dumbest people in the world govern us. Us as workers, we are way smarter than these people. They are the result of privilege, opportunity, generational wealth, and corruption. All these motherfuckers are dumb.
You also mentioned in your reporting that the Western officials fear this slow counteroffensive could cause a gap amongst Ukrainian officials. What's the concern?
Well, you're already hearing it, right? I was in Aspen for the Security Forum just a couple of weeks ago. The Ukrainian president spoke there, and at the time he said, listen, we'd like to have proceeded more quickly, but we didn't get the weapons and the training soon enough, pointing some fire, as it were, at the West for not moving quickly enough to support this counteroffensive. And you're hearing more of that. And the concern is that the unity of...
So you guys see how he explaining how Ukrainian officials, and we showed you the cartoon yesterday, how they say, man, if only the West did more for us. If only they was faster with the weapons. Guys, what else more could we have done? We gave them more than the equivalent of the Russian annual military budget in weapons and training. What else more could we have done for you motherfuckers? What else more could we have done for the Ukrainians? If the Ukrainians could not win with the weapons and ammunition that was given to them by the West, that literally fucking Germany ran out of weapons. So many Western countries ran out of weapons given to Ukraine. If you guys could not win with the amount of weapons given to you, you never stood a chance. You guys need to advocate for peace. Because what they were saying is, God damn Americans, you guys should send us more. Ungrateful Nazi bastards.
Of the alliance, both among Western partners in NATO, but also with their Ukrainian partners, a blame game emerges, as one official described it to me. And that's a problem, right? Because unity is important, not just in terms of standing up to Russian aggression in Ukraine, but also maintaining political support, military support, etc. A lot of this is bubbling up under the surface, and the fear is that it bubbles up above the surface and creates divisions that make it more difficult to provide that support going forward.
Jim Shudo,
Good. You say it'd be more difficult to provide that support going forward if they don't get this counteroffensive going right. Now you guys see why there's so much pressure for this Ukrainian counteroffensive to happen, because there was many reports before this counteroffensive that the Ukrainian forces was not ready. It was not preparing for a counteroffensive. They was pressured by NATO in the West and the corporate media to go on a counteroffensive. Because if they did not go on a counteroffensive, it would have been harder for the Western countries to justify sending aid to a country that is not making any gains. That is why they told them, you guys are going on a counteroffensive right now. We don't care if you guys are ready. This is extremely important for us to secure funds for our money laundering scheme. That's exactly what happened. So the Ukrainian people, knowing that the West are their boss, they went along with this counteroffensive, even though they admitted they was not ready because they were trying to secure more Ukrainian funding. And like Zombie said, I see this is a funny comment. And 45,000 lives later, they says, oops, maybe we should have waited. Maybe we should have been more prepared. No, but you guys didn't have that option. You guys had to do the counteroffensive right now, because if they did not, there would have been even more calls to end Ukraine aid. You would have been even more discussion like, nigga, what the hell are they doing? What the hell are they doing? So they was forced, and now it's backfiring. And this is glorious. I am loving every second of this. I am loving the fact that Anderson Cooper and CNN are being forced to go in front of their audience and say, hey, so we essentially lied to you motherfuckers about this shit for months. Let's continue. This is not going to be the last segment I'm doing this, by the way. I'm sure I'm going to see another segment where they're forced to do it, and I'm going to watch it. It's glorious. Watching these people be wrong about another war is going to be very interesting to watch. Anyway, let's continue.
Fascinating reporting. Thank you. And very concerning, obviously. CNN military analyst and
Right,
retired
so,
Army Lieutenant General Mark Hurtley has been
oh,
following
man. I might say this part for tomorrow. Yeah, I dare say this for tomorrow. I think I did it good now. I'm gonna say this for tomorrow because they got these other generals that come on. Actually, fuck it. Let's finish it. Let's fucking finish it. I let it play. Fuck it. I want you guys to see what
closely. Tweets
this part's funny
extensively about what goes on into a success.
So essentially, CNN is in such shit because they realize they lied to their audience for such a long time. They're like, let's bring on military officials to explain why we was fucking wrong about this. We need you motherfuckers to do propaganda. I'm not talented enough to spin this shit. I don't know what to say about this. So we need the people who are good at the propaganda, these now retired military officials, these CIA operatives, to spin this shit. So Anderson Cooper is like, guys, please help me. I'm struggling here. So I'm gonna play a lot of this uninterrupted because I just want you guys to hear what they say because we're getting late here.
Successful military operation, how this one differs from the standard Western model. Also with us, William Taylor, former ambassador to Ukraine. General Hurling, the idea that there are staggering losses and difficulty and inability to break through the multiple defensive lines that Russia has set up, I mean, that does not sound good.
It doesn't sound good to the uninitiated, Anderson. But you remember, you and I talked about this multiple times, dating back to the March-April timeframe, where I suspected when you're talking about a force that's going on the offensive for the first time, with a very large conventional force, with new weapons, with soldiers who have been reconstituted, and we're talking about Ukraine now, with tactics they haven't used before, they haven't completely transformed the military, against the kinds of things that Russia has put in place over an 8-month period of time. Remember, Russia started mining and setting trenches starting back in October.
Can we just take a second to acknowledge what this is? Because I told you guys the United States is the most propagandized country in the world. We have Anderson Cooper, who is a Vanderbilt CIA operative, who is talking to retired military generals and CIA analysts here. This is what counts as news in this country. Meanwhile, people think that state TV in other countries is bad. This is the height of state TV. A Vanderbilt, CIA, and military industrial complex people spinning war to you guys. What's more propaganda than this? There's nothing in China. There's nothing in Russia. There's nothing in any other fucking country that is more rank propaganda than this shit right here. I just want to take time to acknowledge that.
Of last year. So they had about 8 or 9 months to set the defensive conditions. And it's just very difficult. So what you have right now is a Ukrainian unit, an offensive, between 9 and 12 combat arms brigade over a very large front, between 400 and 600 miles, equal to the distance between Washington and Boston that they're attacking against an enemy who has had 8 months to prepare 3 extensive obstacle belts. That's tough. I have tried to do that when the enemy is just setting up obstacles in a day's time. And when I say enemy, I'm talking about the opposing force at our training centers. And any brigade commander will tell you this mission, an offensive against a defending enemy, is the toughest one that there is. I failed multiple times. I watched multiple U.S. brigades fail in this kind of mission, learn tough lessons, and try and reapply it. So it's just very hard. This is combat. And truthfully, as much as Ukraine wanted to turn into a Desert Storm-like force from the very beginning, when you're talking about the offense, it's much different than the defense that they had for the first couple months of the conflict.
Ambassador Taylor, how concerned are you about this?
So, Anderson, we were in Kyiv last month and the month before. The foreign minister made the point that others have made as well, and that is, this is not the last battle. The Ukrainians are in this for the long term. They hope.
Listen to this psychopath. And this is why I want to show you guys this part. Because despite the fact that 40,000 plus Ukrainians have died in a few weeks, so many Ukrainians, there have been so much Ukrainian bloodshed that CNN is forced to acknowledge it. Meanwhile, this psychopath is on the right that says, we just getting started, son. Oh, you think a lot of Ukrainians died now? Nigga, just wait. We just getting started. Ukraine is getting started. We're gonna run through their entire generation, a generation of young men. Listen to this psychopath speak. This guy is something else. Listen to this. Here we go.
The point that others have made as well, and that is, this is not the last battle. The Ukrainians are in this for the long term. They hope they can end it soon. They hope they can do the breakthrough. By the way, General Hurling's exactly right. The line from Washington to Boston, that's the line. And the Ukrainians only have to find one place along that line to break through, whereas the Russians have to defend everywhere along that line.
At the cost of how many Ukrainian lives, you absolute psychopath. You guys lost 40,000 Ukrainians in a few weeks without any of these magic breakthroughs you're talking about. So how many Ukrainians had to die for this mythical breakthrough you're talking about, sir?
So the Ukrainians know that what they need to do. They know it's hard. They also know that there's more weapons coming. They know that aircraft are coming. They don't have their air right now. And again, if they don't win this battle, they'll win the next one. And if they don't win that one, they'll keep fighting, Anderson. They are not giving up.
Yes, they lost 40,000 men in 3 weeks. Yes, they lost that battle, but they're down to lose another 50,000. If they lose another 50,000, we're gonna sacrifice another 50,000 Ukraine. You think we give a fuck? And if we run out of soldiers, we're gonna grab more men off the street and force them to die in our war. This is a serious, grown-up conversation that is happening on CNN, on standard news in this country. And people still don't understand why I said we are the most propagandized country in the world. These three men having this conversation have some of the most unhinged ideologies, one of the most unhinged foreign policy compared to everyone in the world. They are the global extremists, guys. I want you guys to listen to that last part again, because that's bone-chilling what he is saying here. It's bone-chilling that he's willing to allow so many people to die. For what? For NATO expansion? What are you guys fighting for? Want tens of thousands of Ukrainians to die so they can be part of NATO. Hundreds of thousands of Ukrainians to die so BlackRock can own their country. You guys realize that's what they're doing? Sacrificing Ukraine so BlackRock can own them later. They're going to rebuild their country. So the West can own Ukraine later. This aid is loans. We only got 2.5 minutes left, so I'll let it play for a bit.
What they need to do. They know it's hard. They also know that there's more weapons coming. They know that aircraft are coming. They don't have their air right now. And again, if they don't win this battle, they'll win the next one. And if they don't win that one, they'll keep fighting, Anderson. They are not giving up.
So, General Hurling, I mean, was it a mistake to devote the time to try to retrain forces in new methods? I mean, I read one account that said, if they were able to break through those lines, those kind of combined movement operations, I don't know the exact term for it, but, smaller units making decisions, not sort of the huge hierarchy, and also moving in conjunction with artillery, with air support, things like that, that if they were able to break through somewhere, those new tactics would be beneficial.
Delusional. I don't know if you caught what we asked. Absolutely delusional. This is Anderson Cooper essentially saying that, hey, maybe it is the West's fault because they implanted bad strategy onto the Ukrainians. If only we allow the Ukrainians to fight the natural way they usually fight, maybe they operate in smaller units, they might be able to have a breakthrough. Absolutely delusional. Anderson Cooper, no matter what strategy the Ukrainians operate under, even if they had the greatest strategy that was ever crafted in military history, they are not defeating the Russians. You delusional child.
Yeah, it's a mix, Anderson. I've said for a long time that the United States can't impart, the Western forces can't impart their way of war on a Ukrainian force that truthfully has a post-Soviet bias. They grew up in the Soviet force where artillery was king. So truthfully, they wanted this new equipment. They wanted to transform their ground force. They are taking the first steps. And like Ambassador Taylor, I believe they will eventually get there. They're not there yet. This is a hard fight. I mean, there's no other way to put it. And all of the Western analysts that Jim was quoting a minute ago, I would bet none of the people he's talked to have been on the battlefield attempting to do the kinds of things the Ukrainian force is trying to do right now. I agree with Ambassador Taylor. Ukraine is going to continue to win this fight, but it is not going to be a quick victory because combat is not a video game.
So how does the force evolve? I mean, in this situation.
So you guys finally figured it out. They finally figured it out, guys. It took the genius on the left to say it. That war is not a fucking video game. And every single Western analysis, every single Western propagandist has been pretending that war is a video game. They've been pretending that Ukraine is playing Call of Duty. In every single fucking Call of Duty game, you fight the Russians. You either find the Russians or you find some sort of fucking terrorist cell somewhere. So for a long time, they've been trying to present this fucking action movie where Ukraine are brave, Russians are cowards, and they're going to break through in the action movie video game sequence. That is the storyline that you guys have been selling on people. You guys have been selling this idea that war is a video game where all Ukraine needs to do would be better on the sticks than Russia. If only they had a good strategy like you have in a video game, they'll be able to defeat a giant global nuclear power. So it took a year and a half. It took 45,000 dead Ukrainians during this counteroffensive, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dead Ukrainians, for someone to finally acknowledge that war is not a fucking video game. Congratulations, sir. You finally figured it out. You finally figured it out. You guys want to hear that part again? And I'll let it wrap up from here. But this is the part I was waiting for. Because they acknowledged that they was deeply unserious children pushing video game bullshit by telling people that Ukraine ever had a chance to defeat Russia.
Is trying to do right now. I agree with Ambassador Taylor. Ukraine is going to continue to win this fight, but it is not going to be a quick victory because combat is not a video game.
So how does a force evolve? I mean, in this situation, is it more training? Is it the new weapons that the ambassador was talking about? Is it going back to tactics that may have worked for them before?
I think it's a little bit of a mix.
What tactics? If only they went back to the tactics that worked for them before. Why do they have to go on the counteroffensive in the first place, Anderson? Because they lost a third of their fucking country because it was getting their ass kicked. So even as Ukraine is getting their ass kicked, as they lost a ton of territory, Anderson Cooper and them is still pretending that Ukraine has some sort of success. At no point in this war can you say Ukraine won, that this is a victory for Ukraine, that this is a great thing for Ukraine. And they still try to pretend. They're like, man, if only Ukraine went back to the good old days. If only it was like last year when Ukraine was winning. Sir, at no point was Ukraine winning this war. You delusional child.
They will continue to use artillery. We have given them the cluster munitions that will help. They won't be a game changer, but it will be ammunition that they can use against.
We gave them cluster munitions. We are enabling them regarding committing war crimes. We gave them cluster bombs and cluster munitions that's going to kill and harm their own civilians. So now they have a greater chance of winning. How does that make sense? These people are military minds. They are experts in this field, but they sound like fucking morons because they are.
Defensive position. But they are also learning as they grow, too, Anderson. You know,
oh,
our
learning,
training
guys.
centers, we say,
oh, they're learning. Oh, man, it's only 50,000 men died. Come on, man, it's the cost of learning. Yeah, 40,000 dead there, 40,000 there, yeah. At least the good thing is that we learned our lesson. Yeah, we got a lot of people who die in this war. Yes, we wasted billions of dollars, but isn't the most important thing the friends we made along the way? We made friends along the way. We had a learning lesson at the end of the episode like Family Guy. So isn't it worth tens of thousands of Ukrainians dying because we're learning lessons? He didn't really say that.
be ammunition that they can use against defensive position. But they are also learning as they grow, too, Anderson. You know, at our training centers, we say we learn and grow every day. And had even kind of...
They're learning and growing every day. Few thousand there, a few thousand down here. We learning, guys. We really having some character development during the course of this genocide of an entire generation of Ukrainian men. These people are hilariously psychopathic. Hilariously psychopathic.
Absconds the fact that we're failing on many times and getting scar tissue. The Ukrainians are learning how to conduct operations against these very intense and dense, complex obstacle belts. They will continue to learn and grow. They will find ways to overcome. They have a good morale in their force. They have great leaders, things that the Russians do not have.
Ambassador Taylor, there was this Ukraine peace summit.
They won't stop the propaganda even as they are forced to admit they are getting their ass kicked. Yeah, we get our ass kicked, but Russians suck, don't they? We only got a few more seconds, man. This clip is fucking hilarious to me.
In Saudi Arabia last week, China opted to send a delegation. Any takeaway from that, in your opinion?
The Chinese showing up for that is amazing, Anderson. That's a demonstration that the Chinese are, I think, starting to edge away, trying to edge away from the Russians. I mean, they know that, so the Ukrainians, that was an Ukrainian idea to have this summit, and the Chinese knew it, and all the other 41 nations knew it. They knew that the Ukrainians were going to make the presentation that President Zelensky has made, and it says once the Russians are out of their country, they'll sit down and negotiate. And territorial integrity, which means Russians out of the country, was agreed by all of those nations, apparently, according to the discussions.
Do I even have to explain why that's bullshit? So China, they pretend it's shocking that China is calling for peace. China has always called for peace. China presented the Chinese peace proposal that called for Ukraine, Russia, and the West, everyone to respect the territorial sovereignty of other countries. And after being told to respect the sovereignty of other countries, which include Crimea, which include Odessa and the Donbass, who won't be part of an independent country that Russia supports, right? They said no. And this guy is pretending that Ukraine is fighting a defensive war. Ukraine said, Zelensky said, there will be no peace unless they return Crimea. Crimea, where 80 to 85% of the population want to be part of Russia, a largely ethnic Russian country. You have Odessa, you have the Donbass, ethnically Russian territories that Ukraine wants to force to be Ukrainian. But they're pretending that Zelensky is fighting a defensive war. That's why Lula called them out. That's why Xi Jinping called them out. They say you cannot be a serious activist for peace if you're calling for Russia returning Crimea, because that is not happening. That is absolutely not happening. They are deeply unserious on the side of peace if you're saying that the only way we are going to end this war is Russia pull out and then we get Crimea, because as Lula says what Zelensky and Ukraine want is essentially a full-fledged surrender on the side of Russia. And that is not how serious people negotiate for the end of wars. So anyway, there's going to be a lot more segments where corporate media is going to be forced to acknowledge this failed counteroffensive, this failed strategy by the West. Let's see, are there any more articles? Because who else is acknowledging this reality? I can't wait. Here's an article from Vox. I haven't read it. Oh, here it is. Look, I gotta read this and do a breakdown on this article tomorrow. I see this. What went wrong in Ukraine's counteroffensive? Even Vox is forced to acknowledge this. And as you guys saw in the clip, that guy like, come on, man, we gotta acknowledge that that war is not a video game. You guys been pretending it was a video game since the start of this war. Well, you guys thought that Ukraine was going to defeat Russia. So I'm going to keep covering this. This is very satisfying because, once again, RBN called it from the very, very fucking beginning. Because our position, we are the only side that actually care about the Ukrainian people. So I'm going to read last few super chats and we wrap up. I actually wasn't planning on going live, but we may go live because I think CJ is going to cover the absolute destruction of Marianne Williamson by Jimmy Dore. So that's gonna come tomorrow. We already covered it a little bit tonight, but I gotta cover that segment with CJ. We might have to bring on a guest for that. That was glorious. I texted Jimmy. I was like, man, I can't believe that Marianne Williamson would agree to do that. And Jimmy was like, dude, I can't believe that she would agree to do that either. We all confused. Can't believe she thought that. But I hope you guys enjoyed the show. The debate / conversation with me and Pasta, I hope was very educational. And then you guys know I got to drop some foreign policy every live stream. A lot of great content coming up. So let me get through the last few super chats, and then we can wrap up. Thank you for the $5. Deculturalization. They won't allow me to send my super chat no matter how many times I edit it. Can I hit you up on X? Yeah, hit me up on X. YouTube automatically censors comments that have swear words and shit like that. So I see comments like, man, my comments are being censored on RBN. My comments are being censored. I'm like, guys, we're not doing a lot of these. A lot of these are, I see comments where I have to approve, and I have to approve comments sometimes. But if I do it in a live stream, I can't approve the comments. So if I can't approve the comments, they get censored. So if you do swear words or anything else, unless I literally click your comment and force and show it, it will be censored. So I want you guys to understand it's not always us. Like a lot of time it's the automatic algorithm. So I apologize that it was censored, my friend. You guys can always hit me up on Twitter. I think you've been sarcastic, but we don't call it X around here, sir. We don't call it X. Thank you for the $50, Marco. We appreciate the generous super chat. Keep up the great work, RBN and Nick. Liberty and justice for all. Remember, absolutely, my friend. We laugh, we cry. We had educational segments like these. But I want you guys to remember that all this is all about us getting engaged. I'm going to activate our Kansas City branch at RBN here very soon because we have a mutual aid event coming up. My goal is to raise $1,000 for school supplies for disenfranchised children. I remember growing up, getting school supplies was hell. I think that's something that the government and state should 100% cover. The idea that families and poor children had to buy school supplies for a program they're being forced to do is unbelievably ridiculous. And my theory of change and how we escape this capitalist system is building a society outside of the capitalist system, growing that society, getting people on board by building mutual aid societies, and remove ourselves from the system. Not only do we not engage in these fraudulent electoral politics systems, but we have mutual aid societies that provide food, that can help provide shelter, and basic material needs for families so they can save money for other stuff. So they can save money so they can be more involved in the movement. So we can help people save money on food, and we can have a societal system outside of our system where we reject the capitalist society. We have our own food system. We have people growing food. We have people raising money for school supply. We have literally an outside society outside of our own. We have our own socialist alternative society that is upheld by mutual aid. And then as we grow enough people through this movement, we then get revolutionary. In these societies where we are against school supplies, in these societies where we helping funding people clothes, we helping funding people food. Sabby's having hit her Boston job. We doing tour for the poor. We are helping people read and we getting books for people. While we're doing that, we also have a gun club. We also have a martial art club that I want to start. We build a self-defense. We build a community. This is how we build a revolution. And I want you guys to understand the Dr. Cornel West campaign is a scratch of a surface. It's nowhere near done in terms of what we're trying to accomplish. It's so people can get engaged. Dr. Cornel West in no electoral politics is going to save us at all. Nobody is going to save us. We need to build our own societies that's outside, that allow us to survive outside the system through mutual aid and build revolutionary armies, revolutionary movements that spawn from that. And once we get 10, 15% of the population on our side that completely divested from the system, then the system will start to crumble. Then we get the people on the sidelines on our side. Then once we get the people on the sideline on our side, then we talk about general strikes. Then we talk about completely divesting from the system that will force the capitalist class to the table. And that's the method of peace for change. Now, as Marxists, we should advocate for peace first. Obviously, we don't want coups, we don't want anything violent, but revolution and having this outside society that advocate for revolution, if we are denied our proper rights after we get the revolution started, that's when our gun clubs come in handy. That's when planning session comes in handy. That's when we hold Congress occupied, right? And someone said that's how a code start, Nick. We want the code of the proletariat. We want the dictatorship of the proletariat. We want the ruling class to bend to our will. We want the ruling class to bend to our will. So we have to move as an intellectual, disciplined, working class movement. No more winging this shit. We need to be scientific. Marxism is a science. A critique of capitalism, a science of movement building. And we need to embrace that. For a very long time, people were just winging this shit. Oh, we just do this shit. We wing it. Oh, we support RFK. We wing it. No, nigga, we need to be militant. And if people think that is cultish behavior, that's 100% okay, because we need a dictatorship of the proletariat. We need revolutionary spirit in the workers that we currently do not have right now. So thank you for triggering that rant, Marco, with the amazing super chat. Because that's all. I always want to center that. That's why we cover everything, right? So people can get off the belief that there's a savior coming. Pasta criticized how I'll go hard on RFK. I'll go hard on RFK. I'll go hard on your leaders, so you guys realize that you got to do it yourself, that we got to do it ourselves, that we got to have an intellectual working class movement that not relying on millionaires in the capitalist red-blue alliance game to determine how far we go, correct? But anyway, I tried to get at least one solid right before we wrap up. A few more super chats. That's my last rant there. I probably should say that for the end. But anyway, thanks for the $2, Eric. The banality of evil. Absolutely. We got $10 from ARJ. Hope African countries unite against the West if they try to overthrow the new Western opposition government in Niger. There is African countries that are already starting to reject the idea that West and the United States are getting involved in Niger. And Black Alliance for Peace call for all African nations to reject the Western intervention into Niger. So I really hope they listen. The West knows they can't allow their valuable resources to be nationalized. Absolutely. That's why you have Marjorie Taylor Greene and Donald Trump talking about invading Mexico. It's not about the cartels. It's about the fact that AMLO talk about nationalizing lithium. So it's all about that. Western imperialism taking an L on the Ukraine proxy war with Russia. We absolutely love to see it. Absolutely love to see it. So I think we got all the super chats out of the way. I think the last one from ARJ. Let's hope the Ukraine learn fast enough that they are just a meat grinder for the West and will be owned by the neoliberal capitalism for generation. I hope Taiwan understands that, right? The Ukrainians were completely tricked. The Ukrainians were completely tricked because they've been heavily propagandized. They have Nazi elements that intimidate people in Ukraine. But I really, really hope that the Taiwanese people realize the West don't have their best intentions. There are polls that show around 80 to 85% Taiwanese people that support the status quo, and the status quo is them being part of one China, them having a friendly relationship with China. And this is why there have been a lot of shifts in Taiwan in elections, because I think a lot of people in Taiwan realized they were being used. You have Victoria Nuland that visited Niger, and they essentially told her to get the fuck out because they realized, and they're smart enough to realize that these people don't have their best intention. That's what we hope for them. So with that said, I hope you guys found this conversation, this Nick at Night, to be very educational. I apologize you guys haven't had a lot of Nick at Night recently. Please show some support for these episodes to help me keep going with these. Having this debate with Pasta was very enlightening. I try my best to break up the echo chamber of RBN. That's why I try to have these debates. There are not many people that have the balls, and there are people who don't challenge. You have the Vanguard. You have Zach and Gavin that's running for their fucking life. There are people that tag you guys. The only reason I know this is because people tag me. You have people tagging Zach, Kyle Kalinske, all these white social democrats, and asking them to debate me, and they refuse to do it. They are in shambles. They are afraid to death. Pasta is not. So props to Pasta for calling me out on the timeline and coming on the show to have a conversation where I think we got a lot of agreements in. I think we got a lot of important points. And most importantly, these debates are meant to be educational. I hope you guys got to see that exchange. I hope it was some sort of intellectual worth and value to you guys. So with that said, maybe we'll do Nick and CJ tomorrow. I got to hit CJ up. I think CJ is chomping at the bit to cover the Jimmy Marianne Williamson interview because that was something else. Jamie Dora completely body slam, power driver, choke slam Marianne Williamson through the table on his show. Only seen a few clips. I can't wait to watch all of it. So that's probably what we're going to cover tomorrow or maybe Friday. We're not live tomorrow. We'll be live on Friday. On Thursday, we tend to have the Sabby and JB show. So that will be our guaranteed programming for tomorrow as well, the Nick and CJ show. Friday, we also get Sabby show on the RBN network as well. And then we got Sunday with the JB show. And then we got I have a lot of great guests coming up for you guys as well. I don't want to spoil anything yet, but we've been bringing a lot of banger guests on, and we literally just getting started. So I appreciate all you guys for tuning in. I hope you guys actually got something of value in this live stream. So thank you guys for watching. And if you guys want to support Aaron, who helps me produce these shows, who helps us cut and edit clips, and who helped make the thumbnail, I had the link to our Patreon and the GoFundMe in the description where we give Aaron a cut because we want to make sure that everyone has paid their fair labor value here at RBN. That's something that we value highly. So if you want to support the show, support our growth and our road to 50K, please support our Patreon, GoFundMe, and Venmo if you want to leave a tip. Buy us a coffee, get us something to eat. That'd be definitely appreciated. So much love to all you guys. Hope you guys have a great night. Bye.